available on Google Play now. And you also can check us out on Anchor as well. So just a bunch of different platforms and also all over the world. And I'm excited about our topic today. And I could thank, I guess, one of the veteran regional sales managers for this topic. And so our topic today is going to involve video surveillance, the trends we're seeing, different things, defining what video surveillance is. And I have with me the 4 of our regional sales managers. And I guess if I was looking at specifically where they're at, first, I'd like to welcome to the program Scott Oliver. Scott Oliver is the regional sales manager in the Southeast region. Scott, thanks for stopping by. What's your perspective?
Thank you.
And also the one who's come up with this idea, and he is our regional sales manager in the South Central region, Mike Deeks. Mike, I'm really finally happy to have you on the show.
Again, thanks for the invite and looking forward to it.
And from the Midwest region, David Singer. David, thanks again for stopping by.
My pleasure.
And from the West, Patrick Hart. Patrick, thanks again for coming on. What's your perspective?
Nice to be here.
Absolutely. And when you look at it specifically, the series of questions that we're looking, the thing that I'm seeing is the role of integration, how that has changed throughout the industry. And so I'm going to ask that question to go first of all to Scott Oliver. Where have you seen the role of security integration change throughout the years?
Well, yeah, it's a great question. What I have seen is in the past, an end user, let's say a college campus or what have you, their systems were segmented. So they would have one company come in, do one thing, another company come in and do another. And so there was many necks to choke. Now, what I've been seeing in the last, especially couple of years, is more and more they want a true integrator in that someone who can manage their CCTV, manage their alarms, manage their access control, and anything else. Of course, that has also bled into not only managing that, but many of the security integrators have become more of an IT specialist. Because of that, you're now dealing with IP products. And so as the technology has changed and progressed and gotten better, many of the integrators have as well. I think a lot of integrators would attest to the fact that they know a lot more now about IP products than they did probably 4 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's changing so much. And I remember talking to integrators and they were telling us the same thing, that before they used to talk to the security director or facilities. Now it's IT, which makes the complexity of integration become more and more difficult for the security integrator, because they have to have multiple areas to think about: the physical security, but also the technology involved in it, and video management software and access control, all these different things. IT has that expertise to really dive deep into the technical part of things. And so that makes it different for that security integrator when they're going out and selling video cameras, when they're selling video management software, or they're selling access control. Would you agree, Mike?
Yeah, and so one of the other changes over the years has been now the fire integrators. They've now come on board, and we're seeing more integrators now that may be more fire related that are now adding security, and not so much the other way around from security to fire, but we're seeing more interest from the fire specific integrators. And that's been a big change, I would say, over maybe let's say past couple of years. So that is another learning curve for us as RSMs, but also for the end customer, of trying to explain to them, the need for the security aspect from video surveillance.
So true. And in that process with integration comes what we bring up, the word involving technology and technology. So what are some of the emerging technologies that you're seeing, Patrick?
Well, the number one thing you hear everybody talk about is AI. So everything is AI this, AI that. And the interesting piece about AI is that it's good and bad at the same time. So we could have a whole hour discussion on how AI could be the detriment of the human civilization, or it could be the greatest thing that'll save us. it's all but how that ties in is everything becomes more sophisticated. So I think that from integrators to end users to manufacturers, everybody is smarter today because of technology. And I do it all the time. When I don't know a question, I Google it, I look at a video, I see how something works. And our website has that library of videos that's easy to find anything that we do. So if you have a feature, installation, questions, being able to see a video instantly on your phone or your laptop, having that at your fingertips is very valuable today.
Truly very valuable. And the fact of the technology will keep us safer. And people that are not moving towards that technology, again, like any type of technology, the other stuff becomes archaic and unsustainable and will not protect the physical security of a building, a facility, whatever type of thing, a school district, a property management operation, all those things. So David, because you have had that journey in security, which we talked about before, and what's your perspective, seeing that technology has been a big learning curve for you, the continued growth, so you can understand the integrator, but also the end user in that process.
Well, the word technology in itself has dominated the world, and the technological curve, so to speak, is extreme. And you look at the first couple of questions here. What's changed for our integrators? Technology. What's new technology? 5 years ago, we referred to our partners as dealers.
Yeah.
Now we refer to them as integrators. And why is that? Because they're now, everything is network based, and there's a whole skill set that they've had to acquire. And, when you look at the COVID pandemic and the way that the industry responded and how quickly they responded to come out with solutions, and then obviously the installing integrators have to learn and implement them. It's a different world, and you have now the end user getting involved because, with the pandemic, they have to react. They rely on their integrators to help them with the technology. So it's all intertwined. And, I really think, that's ultimately technology, generically speaking, is the big impetus in our industry today.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think what makes it interesting. When I first saw our solution, I said, wow, I was in the idea before I started working for Lensec that I didn't know that video management I still thought it was on tape. You see a lot of these different crime shows and stuff that are not the technology 21st century, but ones where people have erased the tape, have stolen the video. Well, that can't be done anymore. And that's so cool. And where things are going. When Scott, when you talk about the challenges an integrator faces with installation, why is that? What is all involved in installing, cameras, access control, and video management software in the process, finding each type of end user based on that installation?
Well, that's a great question because there's two parts, to the installation, of course. Just like in our world with VMS, typically there's software that's installed. Of course, the client is installed at the server. And so that's where we get involved with our IT. But then with the different users, that software has to be physically installed on their desktops also, or their workstation. And so that can be challenging, for an integrator because there's scheduling involved with that. I know that there's also training involved with that and having to do that. And you have to physically go there. So it gets a little complicated sometimes. Of course, we do it every day. With ours, it's a little bit different, of course, since it's only installed, at the server and not necessarily at the workstation.
But sometimes that's all encompassing. And Deeks, you've seen that, right? Where it's a new facility and they're installing Perspective VMS, but they're also installing cameras. They're installing the access control. They're looking at and the wires, all the whole installation. Explain that, Deeks, in a lot of ways, that how it's great that we're easy to install. So the rest of that process takes time, that they don't have to worry about that part of the technology being integrated.
Yes, we say ease of use, but again, that can mean, a number of things to different people. But, from what we do, yes, we are the software end. But I want to piggyback off to what Scott was saying is things that are different now is the fact that the integrator is looked and viewed at differently than what they were, several years back. More of a consulting type of role because there's so many moving pieces, but the same part was Lensec evolved, and when we were the integrator / manufacturer of the software Perspective, it's changed, and our role has changed as a manufacturer. But at the same time, we're still doing the design. We are working with integrators to come up with solutions for their access control. Other areas around, face mask detection, line breaks of what we do within parking lots of anyone coming and going. So it has definitely changed across, the realm, whether it be for us as the software manufacturer, but also as the integrator. So the partnership between us and the integrator, and as David mentioned earlier, was the dealer, things have changed. And I think, everyone has stepped up because of the pandemic. And I think we're still learning as things are moving forward as to various directions. It's an exciting time, certainly for us, but the product that we've got, with Perspective, is so adaptable to what is actually out there today, where we can make the change. So it's exciting times, really is.
You think about buzzwords in security, what gets people excited, the end user, and also the integrator. Patrick, what do you see in that area? Like when we talked about technology, there's specific buzzwords, things that are coming up when we do attend trade shows before the pandemic, things that are new in technology. What buzzwords are you hearing now that people are asking for a lot?
Well, Ted, interoperability is always a big piece, and being able to tie disparate different systems together and being able to communicate them all. It's something that's been like an old idea. PSUMs have been around for a long time, but the idea to be able to tie different systems together and have a single pane of glass where you can manage all these different systems and not have a lot of knowledge about those systems. It's always been something that the security industry has strived towards. So with PBMS, you're able to do that. And we're able to not only do that, but also tie in different systems, but also with logic. So tying that logic in always makes a big deal. So I had a discussion with somebody about school shootings last week. And the question is like, you can put all this technology in, but what happens? How does the people react? What is that going to, as a user, how does that affect you? And I think that technology can solve those problems to make it simpler and say when 3 systems go off simultaneously, here's what you need to do to be safe, and here's what the next steps are. So I think that's a big piece as far as technology is the connectivity between all different systems.
Scott, are you hearing any buzzwords on your end, especially with COVID-19 regarding technology? Scott, are you hearing buzzwords that are coming out regarding technology? So that's the things that people are asking for a lot, the integrator or the end user involving.
Yeah, some of the analytics has been what I've heard. Customers are still interested in slip and fall right now. It's sort of 50-50 right now with COVID. And so some of the integrators think, well, I don't want to put in an analytic for, say, face mask detection, but that might go away, in the future. And but what I'm hearing from end users is that they're still very interested in that. I mean, the end users where it really matters anyway. But there's analytics out there to try to manage this current pandemic situation inside of your building. I have more and more customers asking about that lately.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's a great point you're making. Now, one I want to ask Mike Deeks is COVID type technology that's helping for COVID-19. What technology are your integrators, partners asking for now, and even maybe some end users you're talking to?
A lot of the time is, you're sitting down with end users and also the integrators and trying to explain to them the technology as to maybe they want to look at, one area over another. I mean, the thermal camera,
Right.
I think has come and gone for the most part because of, the ridiculous cost that's assigned to it. But a lot of it is we're having to educate the integrators to some degree, but also the end user. And that's where I think we are viewed as maybe more of a consultant area when it comes to the software portion of it, because of the fact of what we've done over the years. But there's definitely a lot more interest in the face mask detection. And the slip and fall is actually starting to get more interest, and it may vary by region, but certainly in Texas, it's pretty much face mask. Also, but I think Patrick mentioned earlier on was the access control. That's still a key part of, the bigger picture, which is, it's protection. So you're trying to restrict someone going from A to B, but, if there's no face mask, how that ties into maybe that door doesn't open to let someone go from A to B if they're not wearing a face mask. So it's the bigger picture. And I think it's going to change. I think as the vaccine is discussed more, the industry is going to change. And I think David mentioned is the fact that, again, there's going to be changes. And I think there's going to be a quicker reaction as to the need that's out there. And it's amazing how quickly things did change.
With a lot of my calls, when I talk to potential end users and also potential partners, I hear the word cloud-based. Are you a cloud system? But first question I wanted to ask David Singer is cloud video ready for prime time?
It's a debatable question, and people definitely see both sides of it. Ultimately, from a product perspective, the product is there. Manufacturers have invested the money. They've gone through the testing. Some have been around for quite a long time. The holdback, for the most part, has always been, what we refer to as the last mile, which is the bandwidth necessary to push all the data to the cloud. And as many people know, video surveillance, the file sizes can be quite large. Cloud is an option right now for what we'll call smaller systems, where you only have a couple of cameras. But looking at it on an enterprise type level, again, it requires a lot of bandwidth and a lot of connectivity. And it just seems to be hanging out there like analytics was for a very long time till it finally got adopted. And of course, there were some technological changes there that helped. And hopefully with cloud, if people do perceive that last mile is the issue, we'll finally find some solutions, some bandwidth solutions down the road that will help out.
Patrick, how long do you think it's going to take for the cloud really to be a big part of everything involving
the term cloud is a little confusing because there's a lot of different aspects of the cloud. So it's just storage in the cloud. I've always liked the idea of having storage in the cloud because it gives you a flexibility where the storage is theoretically unlimited. So if you had an incident where an airport has, some kind of event where it pushes your storage over your on-site limits, you rely on the cloud to help you. The other aspect of it is you could be flexible, where you could have some storage. So I think a combination of edge-based and cloud is the solution today, where you would have systems that communicate to the cloud and you manage things through the cloud, but at the same time you have hardware on site that records, or like an archive or that type of application. But But if you think about the cloud, I've done work at some of our cloud providers, and it's funny because I've called my wife before when I'm in a server room, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm in the cloud." It's like, and it's basically servers. So you think about a server farm, and it's located over there, and we call it the cloud. But if I move those servers to my premises,
It wouldn't be.
it's same servers. so but the connectivity is a big issue. I think that when I first started in the industry, we used to send video on DSL lines. I mean, DSL, and what a nightmare! It's like, just a step above dial-up, and then but today, I have a gigabit speed to my house, and that's unbelievable. 10 years ago, so I think that every year we progress. I think 5G will help those remote locations push video. I think that every day, I worked on a site that was literally located in San Francisco, and all the main equipment was in Virginia. And I was asking that guy, I'm like, "Do you have any latency issues or problems?" And he's like, "No, not this system." So I think it has to do a lot with what you pay for connectivity. And I think that the term cloud is confusing to a lot of people. So I think that's like a lot when you say security. It's like, well, what is security? It's like, okay, I think there's so many different elements that you can dice it up. And that's why the consultant side, having manufacturers and integrators help end users understand what those differences are and how you parse each piece and which is the best application for each site. It all makes a difference.
See, when I think of, I guess I thought the cloud was really in the cloud. Just kidding. I'm up in the clouds. But again, that makes crazy. We're thinking about the cloud. It's basically a large server. It's like people that decide to host their own website on their own server versus a company that has lots more protection, so that if there's no chance of your website crashing. If you have a server, your own server you're managing, sometimes that means that website's going to crash. So you choose a place that's more reliable and things like that. What sounds like the cloud that has such larger server space, that's what they mean by the cloud, but then it just costs money. And so, Scott, isn't that true that basically, even with 5G, it's still very expensive to store everything in the cloud, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And what I'm hearing is we've always, myself included, said, hey, it's stored somewhere out there. But it sounds like Patrick knows where the out there is. I mean, we all know. It actually is somewhere, right? But you're right, it is more expensive in some aspects. The storage is still expensive, but the technology is there. It's an exciting time.
To have somebody manage all of that from the cloud server, that is amazing, because then the worrisome of, is this server going to run out of space? Is this going to happen? But it's going to cost that end user a lot of money at this point. But at one point with 5G, we're going to see a decrease of pricing down the line. And we'll see, because again, I know there's a lot of initiatives with the 5G. I don't even think Pittsburgh has 5G yet, but there's a lot of initiatives coming. The more it becomes more rampant, and who knows in 10 years what we see. Now, COVID-19 has changed our industry so much in such a short period of time. From just meetings and everything. So, Mike, what are you seeing as trends with COVID, with how integrators are looking at COVID-19 for their customers, and also when you're talking to end users?
Well, it's the same for us and on how we're working with the integrators. I mean, it's changed everything that you do. I mean, virtual meetings, Zooms, and everything else. They've got to obviously reach out to the end user to see how they want to be, I suppose, interacted with, as to, okay, how are we going to go look at a project that you want to do. So you've got to do the different types of scheduling times around when is it safe to go on property, and then from that point, how to engage with, let's say, Lensec or the manufacturer, of how they're going to play in it. Because again, we are the software end, it makes it a lot easier. We don't have to be present to do the installations for the most part, but the market as a whole has changed totally. I mean, I would have never guessed would we be where we are today, but we've adapted. I think David has mentioned that we're very adaptable, and but the market had to be. We've definitely been able to move along with them, but And it seems to change from day to day. I mean, one minute you'll get one information about a certain end user and customer engaging with another integrator. So we're going to go in one direction, but then something may change at the end user. Could be a school, could be healthcare, as to their requirements have now changed. So then the integrator has to adapt. And again, most of the adaptation, I think, changes affect the integrator more because they're on site. And for the most part, we're not. We're able to do everything remote. So, the next few weeks are going to be, I think, very interesting to
I
see.
think one thing we're going to see, and then I'm going to ask a question to David regarding trends some more, is if the grants come through, if whoever the administration will be in 2021, even though I'm just saying with everything and how things will move smoothly, another package is done. It needs to be towards security as well, because don't want our customers to have people that contract COVID-19. So they're going to have to come up with a plan to make it so that even the smaller businesses or medium-sized businesses increase their security needs. And with COVID-19, they have to. So hopefully there'll be money, especially when you talk about school districts getting more funding, or definitely healthcare needs to get more funding because of what they're dealing with, so that they can make their facility, the hospitals or urgent cares, even more and more safe. And video management software and physical security is needed more and more, an uptick in it, an upgrade in it. So I see that happening going into 2021. David, any other trends to add regarding COVID-19 you're seeing?
Again, there have been a lot of very quick reactions. There's been a lot of development in terms of temperature sensing or heat sensing cameras that have come into play. Obviously with analytics, that was already mentioned, helping to detect when someone is not wearing a face mask. And then we can also throw in things like analytics where you can observe social distancing, making sure people are keeping social distances, where you can do line monitoring, people counting, of people in line, and then looking at the people and making sure they're keeping a proper distance and wearing a mask. And those are just some of the ones that have come into play recently. And again, as everyone I think has said, that the curve is growing fast, and we'll see new technology develop and develop and develop. And tie into that, you have this whole Internet of Things, which has now taken a backseat, the IoT. But everything now connects to a network. Everything connects to the internet. Everything's becoming smart. So you're going to see, and you tie that in with AI, as Patrick mentioned, and making systems smarter. Number one, to not only detect just the types of events you want detected, instead of having to, the old days of shuffling through 100 motion alarm events. Now we can narrow it down to just maybe the 2 or 3 or 5 or 10. And then, it increases efficiency, and it ties into the whole security world in general. So again, it's just rose-colored glasses, so to speak. It's an exciting time. And if you like technology, certainly, we're on the forefront, we're on the cusp. And it's one of the things I love about this product is we're very fluid and very agile. And it's exciting to see us react and develop custom solutions based on it.
And I think that the end user, Patrick, this question wants to go again involving COVID-19 and all that. What recommendations should you make? Because a lot of end users are still have lots of questions regarding upgrading their technology and their security system. What would you say?
Well, I would think that I wouldn't want to necessarily jump on the most expensive or highly technical advancement right out of the box. One of our partners, Galaxy Access Control, has a very interesting COVID technology that's super simple. It's basically an app on your phone, and before your credentials work that day, you have to answer a questionnaire. So you answer the questions, kind of like what the doctor does when you go to the doctor's office. Doctor asks you some questions. Same type of thing. You answer these questions on the app, and then your credentials will let you in the door to go to work. I think that it doesn't necessarily have to be super technical. I mean, I'm a big technology, advocate, but sometimes building simple makes it, having simple technology that multiple layers of simple. So if you had different authentication for access control, I've often said this about face recognition. So face recognition, you get to the door and it's like, well, what's the accuracy? Can it be spoofed?
Right.
Can somebody cheat the system? Well, if I had multiple authentication up to that door where I'm doing license plate recognition, I'm doing, an app or doing some other technologies first, then my face recognition doesn't have to be as accurate. So building those workflows where you say, this has to happen, this has to happen, this has to happen. I think that type of technology makes it where you're not relying on one technology that has to be super accurate. So,
that's great. Great points. Now, Scott, one thing I'm hearing also is people are always still thinking so much about COVID-19. People have to think about physical security involving the technology, video management software, all those different things, Scott. Think about specifically the old school things we were worried about before COVID-19. So that's another thing for people to have to think about when they're talking about upgrading technology, right, Scott?
Right. Yeah. Because the concerns that the customer had 10 years ago, for the most part, are still here, right? So we're adding to those concerns, but those concerns about say perimeter security, if you have cameras around a perimeter and you have line crossing, along those fence lines, that's still there. And so you're right. I mean, those needs still exist, coupled with the unique needs that we have today dealing with COVID. Sometimes that can be a little overwhelming, but the best way to manage that, of course, is all in one easy to use platform, I think.
Exactly. And that's what we're able to do. Now, this question goes towards David we've really talked about everything regarding physical security, from the integration part to the technology part to everything. And now if I'm a partner listening to this right now, David, how can I make selling video management software profitable for my business?
Okay, well, obviously we look at it from a perspective VMS angle. And, the obvious one with us is the fact that there is no client software to install or maintain. So as rollouts get larger, you don't have to go around and install 10, 20, 30 different clients. You don't have to be involved in upgrading or upkeep of those clients. And you pretty well eliminate any configuration issues, because in the past, it happens by accident. We upgrade the server components, but we forget to upgrade the client. So all of that's eliminated. So none of that work comes into the equation anymore, which, puts more into a service contract, more profitability. The one other thing that I like to bring up before I turn it over to my associates is we're open platform. And one of the things that I'm seeing in the industry and was seeing before I came to Lensec is a lot of manufacturers today are trying to make themselves one throat to choke. It's our server, buy our cameras, they try to incent you to do so. But, to me, it's all about building the system with the right pieces and parts to produce the results your end user needs to see, whether that's from a comfort level or specifically a cost level. It allows you to go out, find the server you want to install the software on. You can go ahead and shop. You can find the best camera at the best price.
Right.
All of that comes into play as well. So I think being open platform and building the system with what you want to build it with is very crucial, and helping you be more profitable as well.
And that's great. And Deeks, what would you add to that?
Well, again, that's a big change where you've got the thought process of that one throat to choke, where you've got one vendor that wants to do it all. But I think today partnerships are more crucial than they've ever been, where again having an open concept allows the end user to have a little bit more control, even the integrator too. So it's it's a big difference. The one thing I would want to go back to a previous question you had of Scott was what has changed also is with the building security now is more key than it's ever been because people aren't in the buildings. So there's a lot more theft going on, which is different today than what it was maybe a year ago. So we've got a lot more empty buildings, but again, a lot more theft taking place. So the market definitely changes on that. So, but no.
If I would do another, this is such a great roundtable discussion. If we had more time, I would want to talk about certain case scenarios that you've dealt with your customers, and also user case scenarios involving working with the integrator for another roundtable discussion. But we really covered a lot of great stuff today, and really appreciate you all coming on to talk about it. And I mean, blown away by the knowledge base of everyone that's on this interview today, and to go and contact them. And you guys can contact them very simply by going to lensec.com and schedule a demo, and you could schedule a demo with any one of our regional sales managers that's on this call today, or go check out us at lensec.com/live to check out all the different episodes and catch up with different areas of security. You'll find we've talked about so many things regarding the physical security and such great experts. So I appreciate you guys all stopping by, and what great information today. Thanks again.
Well, again, thanks to all the veterans out there. Thanks for your service.
Yes.
Thank you. That's a great reminder, Mike, to talk about that. Thank you for your service. We have the freedoms that we have thanks to the veterans, and especially the veterans also that are part of our Lensec team. So I appreciate everyone stopping by, and thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that was What's Your Perspective. Take care.